So Kamal, I look at things differently. It's true the IT industry has got some tax reliefs and excise and et cetera, et cetera. But I think what the IT industry has done really has been a great leveler in Indian society. It has played the role of a catalyst where India has been able to leapfrog from a real third world country into the forefront of the developing nations. And I don't think that the IT sector has created more divisions in terms of what you mentioned, taking in and giving less. I think what it's given us is, forget the dollars and forget the remittances and the FDIs and the joint ventures and the branding and the soft power. And I think it's given hope and aspiration to millions of people, young boys and girls who've done diplomas, who've done postgraduate courses or graduate courses, and feel that they have a chance to make it big, not just in Palo Alto, in the West Coast, in California, but back home in India. And I think no other industry in India has done that. So I feel actually it's a great leveler, it's a great common denominator for all of young India. And I think in terms of giving back, one really can't measure it in terms of rupees and dollars. It's been a great asset for the Indian export markets. It's been a great asset for developing our education systems, because I can count hundreds, if not thousands of families that I know of who want their kids to become IT professionals. I mean, it's something that is become an aspirational thing. It's changed the landscape of Indian education. So in that sense, I think it's been a more positive thing than a negative thing.
What I talked about was a leadership progression, if you will. And I would say, when I look at the IT industry, I think what's going on is very natural and very admirable. It's just like a child, if you will. You start out as a baby, and then you're a toddler, and then you go to school, and then you're a teenager, and you go to college, and then you get a job, and you take care of your family, and then you begin taking care of the people around you. So I think the Indian industries have done incredible things, and they're maturing. And a teenager can't give back. I mean, it's got to take care of himself, and it's got to grow. But the encouragement I have for you is as you do well and you do prosper, use some of those things and don't forget your responsibilities. I see a lot of people around the world who say they will do that on the way up, and then they kind of forget. At the same time, I have tremendous admiration for many of the executives in India. You know, Raju, with what he's doing at the Satyam Foundation, and by Raju, the foundation, with the 9/11 service, touching 100 million people, having the goal of saving 1 million lives. I mean, so you could take what I said as negative, but I would encourage you to take it as positive, to take that kind of capability and move it around the world. I'm not sure of any place in the world that has that kind of potential or heart. And then you can go to the other kinds of things that Nanda and his wife are doing, water and whatnot. So my encouragement is to realize who you are, and you grow old in the potential and not forget about that. So I think you're just at it's just the natural maturing process, you know.
Thanks, Dennis. We are now going to be taking questions from the audience. Just a couple of ground rules. Please raise your hands. I'll point to you. You can ask your question, introduce yourself, and if possible, address your question to a specific speaker. Keep your question short. In case you have a comment, please say your piece, but keep it shorter. And we will take questions for around 15 minutes. Lady in the first row, please.
This question is for Sachin. As the consumer behavior has been evolving in India, Indian management and Indian business leaders have had the courage and the conviction to reinvent themselves and come up with an honest, confident, and a transparent leadership paradigm which caters to the next gen aspirations. However, when we look at the political leadership, we still are saddled with last generation political leadership style. And now we are trying to build the next gen India. So as a next gen political leader, I would like to know your views on how is that paradigm shift going to happen in political leadership.
I wish I could answer you in very brief. But I think change is a fact of life. Change is inevitable. Slow or fast depends on how you perceive it. But it is happening, it is bound to happen, and it will happen. Does it keep pace with your expectations? The jury's out on that. But I can tell you, things have changed in this country. The political system in this country is evolving. Don't forget we are a young democracy. We may have some leaders from the older generation, but in the last 15 years, in the last 10 years, the kind of change I've seen in local politics, in the municipalities, in the Zilla Parishads, in the panchayats, in local governing bodies, so many young boys and girls have come up to the task and taken on the leadership mantle and fought elections and real grassroots politics. And also in our assemblies and parliament, we see a lot of young people coming in and really actively taking part in the political process. But I think the trouble with India is that sometimes we want the political system to be as responsive as the IT industry, to really turn on a dime and change very, very quickly. But I can really assure you, I think things are changing. We are seeing a new initiative, new creativity. I think the energy, the zest in the political system has come in. And I'm sure in the near future, we'll be more satisfied. Also, can I at this point, one last thing, just taking a leaf out of Rajiv's presentation. So one has to look ahead and prepare for the future. Now, tax exemptions and, whatever privileges the IT industry has, one has to learn to live in the future that you may not have or perhaps be taxed more than anybody else. Similarly, when Rajiv has a B2B model, when the babe becomes a bahu, you have to start going from motorcycle to a small car. So you have to keep innovating all the time. And we do it in politics as well.
Yeah, gentleman there in the third row, please.
Hi, I'm Narendra Singh. First, I think it's a welcome change, I would say, from the earlier NASSCOM that we have of practicing politician analytics. So I actually congratulate NASSCOM for having followed this. I actually again have a question for you. In some way, the follow-up to what the lady asked, and it is a little bit more specific in the sense, one is, how do you see the Indian political scene 10 years from now? What would be fundamental differences in whether it is accountability, the type of people coming in, and you alluded to some of that. I'm just keen to hear a little bit more about where you think 10 years from now the political scene would be and the kind of people, accountability, etc. The other thing is, in some ways, there is a back of the mind assumption that this political leadership either doesn't get it or is irresponsible sometimes to respond to or is guided by very narrow interests. Do you think that's a valid assumption or we just from a distance perceive it to